Hello, 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 greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of greeting across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, hello there, hello there. Hello there, Julian20. Welcome. Congratulations on getting first, Private Maverick. I think this is this your first time getting first? Well, if it isn't, even if it isn't, congratulations. Hello there, Dr. Zadium. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Mm. So, how are all you fine, wonderful scholars doing this fine evening, afternoon, whenever it is, wherever you are? Oh, I need a drink of water already. Doing well. Glad to hear it. Julian20, my face isn't numb anymore. Why was it numb? Why would your face be numb? Did you get smacked in the face by a book? Did you walk into a wall? Julian20, Death's disappointment. Ah, those are more painful than any of those. Ah, well, I hope it went well for you, at least. Oh, as for myself, well, Julian20, yes. Well, good, good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear you're doing all right. As for myself, well, well, how do I put this? Yesterday was a bit of a rough day for myself. I had a bit of an issue. I'm not going to go into too many details, but I, and I'll say I almost canceled this stream because of this. But I managed to pull myself through with the help of some wonderful friends who were there for me. And now here I am. And Horace is here to support me as well. Because of course he is. You support me, don't you, Horace? Well, I thought you supported me. You don't have to be silent on me. Say something. uh, what? No, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Well, alright. Yes, Horace supports me 100%, I think. Oh, congratulations, Julian20, on your 7 stream streak. Wow. That is amazing. That's pretty cool. But yes, yes, yes. I digress, my dear scholars. Tonight, tonight we are continuing our reading of The Midnight Folk. It's been a bit of a long reading. It feels like a long reading, doesn't it? It's odd. It's odd, and I think again it's because there's no chapter breaks, so kind of it feels really weird to read it. It's I know it's hard. It's probably hard for you to notice, but it is so difficult to really read this thing. Although I am enjoying it, and I hope you're enjoying it as well, my dear scholars. Last time in the book, Kay, who's been hunting for the treasure hidden, stolen apparently from his grandfather, great grandfather. Was it grandfather? No, was it his great grandfather? I think it was his great grandfather. He didn't steal it. No, 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 no. Oh my goodness, this is so complicated. Kay Harker, who lives at Seeking's house, is searching for the treasure that once was on his great grandfather's ship. It is also being sought out by a group of witches as well as the mysterious Abner Brown. Currently, Kay is traveling with a mysterious woman and has arrived to meet a group of mermaids. There. A little bit odd, but there we go. Ugh. It's hard to summarize this thing. So, my dear scholars, shall we continue our journey through the adventures of the Midnight Folk? Oh, okay. Julian20 says yes. All right. Another drink of water. It's very dry today for some reason. Very dry. Then we will continue from where it's last we left off, or at least where I marked myself. Excuse me. Together they sat on the neck of the wave, with Kay between them. Kay felt the wave begin to run like a horse, and to gather speed and to lift. Soon the toppling water began to hiss and foam all about them. The shore seemed to rush nearer, and then they all rolled over and over in boiling bubbles into the cool pool of the river, where the seashells looked as though they were all made of pearl. Soon they were swimming up a river which flowed between ranks of reed and bulrush. Some of the reeds had flowers like the plums of pampas grass, but pale blue. Others had delicate, dangling yellow tassels. All over these flowers the butterflies were hovering and settling. Giant flags grew among the reeds, with heavy blue, white, and golden flowers. Okay, there's an illustration here of Kay with a mermaid, and the mermaid is very uncanny valley-ish. Kind of disturbing. I wish I could show the picture, but oh boy. It really looks weird. Giant flags grew among the reeds with heavy blue, white, and golden flowers. Little speckled birds with scarlet crests clung to these flowers while they pecked something within them. Waterfowl as big as swans with orange bills and big black and white plumes on their heads swam to them to be stroked. In the gloom and zebra striping of the light and shade of the reeds, Kay saw long-legged white water birds standing ankle-deep, fishing. Here and there, when they passed the mud banks, he saw the turtles enjoying themselves in the cool ooze. Alien 20, creepy? Yeah, it is creepy. It's a kind of a creepy design. Presently they left the river and swam up a backwater, where the reeds on both sides gave place to quince trees, which smelt like Arabia from the ripe fruit. At the end of the backwater there was a patch of red mud, much poached by the feet of cows that had come to drink there. Beyond the cows was a little roll of grassland. "The man took the gold and silver things this way," Seaflower said. "In those days the river ran this way, through all that grassy piece, and for miles beyond it. We often used to swim there. We followed his yacht for a long way, further than we can see from here. He was a rosy-faced man, not old, but his hair was already gray. His eyes were very bright, and his mouth, when one could see it through the beard, was most cruel and evil. He had 3 Indians with him, who were his divers and sailors, whom he used to beat." Yeah, he sounds awful. He sounds like an awful person. "When he was in a narrow part of the river, he heard guns, for his city of wickedness was being destroyed. He pulled his yacht far into the reeds against the mud, and sent one of his Indians to find out what was happening. As the Indian did not come back, he sent a second Indian, and when the second did not come back, he sent the third, but the third did not come back either." "What happened to the Indians?" Kay asked. "They all went home to their village in the sea. They have houses there, built upon piles driven into the water. In the rainy seasons they keep very snug in their hammocks and tell each other stories." "And what happened to Abner Brown, please?" "He waited for the Indians to bring him news. When they did not come, he changed his yacht's hiding place by driving her still further into the reeds. Then he set out by himself to find out what was happening. He was captured as a pirate that same night and sent far away. Nobody found his boat. She was too well hidden. But there came great changes which had hit her further. At first we used to play in the water near here, hoping that she might soon fall to pieces, so that we might have her gold and silver people again. But then there came the earthquake, which raised the riverbed and buried the yacht in the mud. After the earthquake, there came the great summer floods, which made a new channel for the river and altered all the coast. When the floods went down, the place where the yacht lay was 5 miles from the water and covered deep with flowers. So the birds told us. I have to take another drink of water. I noticed this with John Masefield's way of writing, and I'm sure other authors do this. Um, he breaks up the long moments of dialogue with the usual paragraph breaks, but at the same time, he doesn't mark if the same character is necessarily saying the lines. In fact, earlier there, when I was reading the bit where Kay asks what happened to Abner Brown, Macefield does not indicate that Kay is saying these lines. Um, you mostly are just supposed to infer that from the dialogue. It makes for a very confusing read. Mm. Oh my goodness, I am sneezing. The man came back presently to look for his yacht, but with the land so changed, he hardly knew where to begin. We used to see him digging sometimes when we went up the streams. But he was evil. Do not let us think of him. Let us go to the sea to play in the rollers as they burst. In a few minutes they were in the shining shallow water, across which the breaking rollers were marching. At first Kay was frightened of the waves as they curled and toppled high over his head. Very soon he was waiting to meet them, so that they could break all over him or carry him into the sands. "And now," the mermaid said, "let us all go down to look at the city under the sea." They all swam for a few minutes. Then Kay suddenly saw something very golden in the green of the underwater. "Those are the walls," Foam Blossom said, "and if you listen, you will hear the bells. Let us wait here." They had paused at what had been the harbor. 3 or 4 little ships had sunken with the city. They were there, still secured to the walls. Sponges like big yellow mushrooms covered one. Another was starred all over with tiny white shells. Another was thickly grown with a weed like many-colored ribbons. The walls, which had once been of white marble, seemed golden in that dim light. As Kay looked, he heard a sweet but muffled booming of the bells as the swell of the waters surged and lapsed in the bell tower. "Come, Kay," the sea flower said. "The city gates have fallen open. We can go in." Oh my goodness, page is stinking. They passed through the gates, which now drooped upon their hinges from the weight of the shells which grew upon them. Inside the gates was a guardhouse with a rack of spears still standing against the wall. Beyond that was a street with shops open, and fish slowly flitting from shop to shop. At the end of the street there was a temple with a bell tower. No one was in the city. Kay went into 2 of the houses. In one, the kitchen was set out with pots and pans for dinner. 2 eggs were in a bowl, and the bone of a leg of mutton was on a dish. In the other, the beds in the nursery were turned down ready for the children, and in one of the beds a child had set a doll, on which the little shells were growing. There were gaily painted carvings on some of the walls, showing the racing of children and romps and tugs of war. "What is this city, please?" Kay asked. "I would love to go all over it, into every house. What is it called?" "We call it the Golden City. But look, here come the mer children, playing touch and tag. Let us play with them." At that instant, about 20 little mer children came darting down the street at full speed, with streaming hair, bright eyes, and laughter. They twisted about like eels, dived down chimneys and through windows, crying aloud from joy in the fun. "I wonder," Kay said, "if we might play hide and seek. This would be such a lovely place for it." "Yes," Foam Blossom said, "let us all play hide and seek. Sea Flower shall be he, and Kay, you come with me, for I know a lovely place to hide." She took him through one of the houses into what had been a garden. The fruit trees still stood, but were now crusted over with shells. Sponges, anemones, and corals, which were so covered with points of glitter that they seemed full of eyes. What? Hold on. Which were so covered with points of glitter that they seemed full of eyes, grew like mistletoe on the branches. There came a sort of cloud in swift movement across the golden light. Excuse me, I read that wrong. Excuse me. There came a sort of cloud in swift movement across the golden light. "Look," Foam Blossom said. "There's a ship passing overhead. If you look up, you may see one of the crew looking down." "That reminds me," Kay asked. "I meant to ask you before, did you ever see another man taking away those golden and silver people? He may have taken them away in a big barge." "Why, Kay," she answered, "that is the plunderer passing. There is the water rat captain looking down. You must be quick. And oh, do look at the flying fish." Kay felt a sort of swirl as he rushed past a lot of green bubbles into the light. The billows burst all about him suddenly, and the sun made him blink. Foam Blossom, the lovely mer children, the city and its gardens, among which the beaked fish had flitted like birds, were gone. He was sitting on the end of the plunderer's jib boom, in the clouds of spray flung up as she sailed. Sheets of spray as bright as snow soared and flashed all around him. Then he saw that it was not spray, but a flight of flying fish skimming and falling like darts, all glittering and quivering. "Oh, how lovely!" he cried. Excuse me. As he cried, he heard his window creak. Somebody rolled him into bed, and the plunderer went back to the wall. As for the sea, it was not there. When he opened his eyes, Ellen was there, but no water at all. "Where did you all run to?" he asked. "Where did we all run to? Wake up!" Ellen said. "You are such a one to sleep as I never did." "Well, it was here a moment ago," he said. "I declare, you're dreaming again. You're dreaming still," she said. "Now don't go to sleep again. Breakfast will be in a quarter of an hour, and you're not to be late," she said. "I was to tell you specifically." When lessons were over, he went out to Benjamin's lair with a little compass, which had been on the schoolroom shelves for years. With this he judged that a point 100 yards south from the Seeking stables would be in the Crowmarsh estate, somewhere near a big fir tree in the spinnery. All the Crowmarsh estate was an unknown world to him, where spring guns banged, man-traps snapped, bloodhounds tore the heads off children, oh my goodness, and the pimply Watto had been shot in the leg. Yet it looked quiet enough in the hot summer morning. No bloodhounds, and no keepers. I don't believe that's anybody's there, he thought. I'm sure that nobody's there. He hovered about, unable to make up his mind to it, until the bang, not the bang, until the bell rang for dinner. After dinner he wanted to go, but the thought of the bloodhounds daunted him. Then he thought, from the loft in the stables I may be able to see over into the estate beyond the spinnery there. You see? He scrambled into the stable through the harness room window, and then climbed the steps nailed to the wall. The loft was very dark. It was littered with musty straw in which black walnutty things, which had once been apples, lay. Baskets, hives, a honey extractor, brood frames, a comb foundation, saddle trees, decaying top boots, and the catcher of a mowing machine lay in one corner. In the wall, showing light at the edges, was a big wooden shutter, through which the hay and straw had once been hoisted. Through just such a shutter, when he was drunk and wasn't minding what he was doing, Ellen's uncle had fallen at the tuttocks and broken his huckle-bone. However, by being sober and very carefully minding what he was doing, Kay reached the little glazed window at the side without mishap. He looked through over the road and the orchard. Orchard. It's orchard. Yeah. I can't talk tonight, apparently. Old Jarg came by with a pair of steps and a bag of tools on his way to see to Mrs. Tattle's dovecot. He explained this to Mrs. Bucket. Or is it Bouquet? Is it Bucket or Bouquet? I wonder. He explained this to Mrs. Bucket, who was on her way to see her married daughter. They said that it was lovely weather. They said that it was lovely weather for the crops, though a nice drop of rain would freshen things up a bit. When they had gone, pretty Polly Calloway drove past in her dog-cart with a friend. When she had gone, Kay stared at the Crowmarsh estate. It was all peaceful. In the orchard, the gray trees were growing bare of leaves as the fruit ripened. The birds were moving without alarm. Rabbits humped themselves. I don't think they meant this thing. Rabbits humped themselves about. I am better than this. I know. Nibbling grass at the spinny edge. Somewhere, just 100 yards away, was SSS. JGZRPC. I'll try it, he said. I believe it's safe. Within a minute he was flat on his stomach in the Crowmarsh spinney. It's all lies about the keepers being here, he said to himself. Nobody ever comes into this spinney. The branches are all covered with that brittle stuff, which hasn't been brushed away. He looked back at the ruins of the barn, brew house, and stable. 100 years before, Benjamin had lived there. 200 years before, people had died of the plague there, so Ellen said. There was a mark on one of the doors, which had once been a red cross to show the dead cartman that a corpse was inside. He reckoned up his distance. 2 cricket pitches still to go, he thought. He crept through the spinney to look at the other side. There he saw that 100 yards south from SSS would take him to the middle of a pond in a cemented basin. That is where he put it, he thought. People often buried their treasures in ponds. Really? It's the safest place you can choose, really, but I shan't be able to get to it. But I shan't be able to get it. I mean, I've never heard of people putting treasure in ponds. Have you, my dear scholars? I mean, I've heard them be buried, but put in ponds? Excuse me. He looked out in peace at the Crowmarsh estate, which he had never before seen. Rabbits were nibbling the grass. Just beyond the pond was the old ruin of an elm tree swathed in ivy. Beyond that was a paddock where hunters were being summered. Beyond the paddock was pasture in which the Cromarsh Gunsies were grazing. Beyond that was grass where someone was lunging a chestnut colt. "Those young gentlemen care for nothing but horses," Ellen had said. A pheasant walked out of the spinnery close to him. "What lies people tell," Kay thought. "Of course there can't be bloodhounds and spring guns. The rabbits and pheasants would set them off at once. I'm going down to look at the pond." He crept to the water's edge to watch the insects and the spinning of grains of sand below the lip by which the water trickled away. Looking up, his eyes were caught by a big hole in the ruined elm tree. It was a hole big enough for Kay to get into. He was thrilled by holes in trees. Ellen had often told him how they had found the skeleton of a man inside a big hollow oak in Sir Hasselgassel's wood. "He was supposed to be a murderer or something, who had gone in to hide and didn't think it would be hollow all the way down. But it was, so there he was, and he didn't dare to cry out. People thought for then he would have been taken and hanged. So he just starved to death. Father said that his coat was still on him, hanging by the buttons, and bits of shoes with buckles." Then he had read of a skeleton in armor found inside another hollow tree near one of the battlefields of the War of Roses. The man must have run away, climbed in, fallen down, and died there. And other things were found in oak trees. The rector had half a dozen black iron barbed arrowheads, which had been shot into an oak tree at the butts in the reign of Henry VIII. He had found them when sawing up the logs for firewood. Old Mr. Colway had dug bullets from old trees in Naseby. "Very likely," Kay thought, "Benjamin's treasure might be in the hollow of the tree, for of course I can't tell what SSS is. It might be Stable's southern side. A hollow tree would be as good a place as a pond." At that moment, as he stared upwards, a white, dumpy figure sidled into the center of the hole, stared down at him with big, fierce eyes, and then, closing both eyes, stood still like a stump of decayed wood. "A white owl," Kay said. "He's got a nest there. I'll climb up and peep in." Nice. Really, why would you disturb an owl? The owl's just minding its own business. Why would you crawl in and try and bother it? Especially if it has a nest. He was wondering how painful a peck from that hooked beak would be when he heard the click of a gate latch. "It's the keepers," he said. "They've seen me." Peeping round the tree trunk through the ivy, he found that it was worse than the keepers. It was young Mr. Cromarsh and his mother, whom everybody called the Tigress. They were about 100 yards away, coming slowly towards him, deep in talk. If he ran for home, they would recognize him or run him down, and then there would be that terrible notice: "Trespassers will be prosecuted." What was he to do? "Get up into my house," the owl said. "Look alive, or they'll catch you. Oh, my mouse and sparrow, take hold of the ivy and pull yourself up. That's better. Now the other foot. Now catch a good grip on my claw. Now, oh-hoo! A long pull. Up you come. Now here you are in my nice house. Just step aside behind the ivy till they've gone by." Kay stepped aside behind the ivy as he was bidden. He found that he was in a snug room littered with moss, dead leaves, and soft rotted wood. He heard the two companions come to the foot of the tree. "I thought I heard a squirrel there, then," young Mr. Cromarsh said. "I don't think it was a squirrel," his mother said. "I expect it was only old Blinky flapping his wings. Our red squirrel has gone. I can't help thinking that that man Bilges shot him. A regular scoundrel, Bilges, and his brother at the Gassels is as bad, the young man said. But is this the old Blinky that used to roost in the ivy on the ruin? It is, old Blinky growled. And there he is growling, the young man said. It is old Blinky. Well, I'm glad he's alive still. I've half a mind to climb up to look in on him. He had clambered up a foot or two when his mother stopped him. The tree really isn't safe, she said. Besides, you will ruin your clothes. Probably would have climbed up, but at that moment some of the bark gave way beneath his feet, which brought him slithering down. Wait, is young Mr. Crowmarsh? Is young Mr. Crowmarsh supposed to be a kid? Oh my goodness, I think he's supposed to be a child. Oh, oops. Well, that's a very deep-voiced child. Probably he would have climbed up, but at that moment some of the bark gave way beneath his feet, which brought him slithering down. Yeah, he's a child. Young Mr. Crowmarsh is a child. Oh my goodness. I'm right in the face. Though they don't really give you any indication that he's a child, do they? There you are. It isn't safe, his mother said. You must come along now. Look in on old Blinky some other time. When they had gone, old Blinky said, Well, Kay, have you been riding the hoofless horse lately? No, I haven't. Nor found the treasure yet? No, not yet. But I found out where it went to, up to a point. It was swallowed up in an earthquake, and though some people say that it was afterwards dug up and taken away, others aren't so sure. Well, why don't you make sure? Please, I don't know how to. Is it as good to eat as mouse and sparrow? Blinky asked. It isn't good to eat at all. Blinky blinked at this and gurgled in his throat. After a long time he said, Do you want to find this stuff? Yes, please, rather. Well, I might find out for you, perhaps, if you could tell me just whereabouts to begin. The place was somewhere near the Golden City. Not so loud, please, old Blinky said. Why? There's nobody listening. How do you know? There are a lot of these invisible people everywhere, and spies. Well, you'll be wiser to whisper. Oh, hello there, Sophia. Welcome. Matsu, I'm going to delay my stream until yours end. So what time-ish? Usually I end around... I usually do an hour and a half stream. We're at 35 minutes, so 7:33. Oh, odds. Oh my goodness. It is, I usually end it around 8:30-ish, I think. About 8:30, yeah. I'll make sure to end it at 8:30 this time. Oh, my goodness. My goodness, my gracious. Also, for some reason, I'm turning this owl Australian. I don't know why. Well, I might find out for you. Perhaps, if you could find me just whereabouts to begin. Sophia Ignacy, perfect darling librarian. Oh, you're gonna make me blush. The place was somewhere near the Golden City. Not so loud, please, old Blinky said. Why? There's nobody listening. How do you know? There are a lot of these invisible people everywhere, and spies. Well, I'll be wiser to whisper. Kay whispered into Blinky's ear directions, which he thought could help. Right, Blinky said. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll call my friend the Swift. He'll take the message to the Stormy Petrel, who is much the fastest bird there is. The Petrel will be across ocean in no time. Then, you'll pass the word to a skew, or something on the other side, and then the skew or something will ask my cousins about it. I have a lot of cousins over there, very good sorts of creatures, but they have an odd habit of living in holes in the ground. Can't understand the habit myself, but each man to his taste. You'll come in handy now, though for of course they will know everything that is underground in those parts. By the way, here's a Swift. He'll go at once. He'll have an answer by your bedtime. Whew! There, Swift! The Swift paused on the ledge of Blinky's lair. He was a fine bird, bright-eyed and eager. I say, Swift, Blinky said, this is our friend Kay. He wants to find out about some treasure. So will you pass the word along to my foreign cousins? Put your head up to mine, will you? It had better be whispered. There are reasons why this should be kept secret, if it can't be. As he whispered the directions to Swift, it seemed to Kay that something rustled in the ivy above them.
Right, the Swift said. I'll take the message and wait for an answer. It should reach me before roosting time. If it doesn't, I'll send it by bat. Anyhow, you'll get it before you start your evening's hunting, and you can send it on to Kay. Goodbye, all.
He slipped into the air and was gone before Kay could thank him. As he sped away, Kay was quite certain that somebody or something rustled in the ivy above. "What was that?" he asked.
What was what?
"That noise in the ivy."
I didn't notice any noise.
"There was a noise like someone climbing in the ivy."
I expect it was the wind, Blinky said. The wind is always rustling this ivy. Time and again I kept thinking it's a mouse, but it never is. It's always the wind.
And here we go with another song, my dear scholars. I will have to hydrate just so we can get to sun. Oh my goodness. me.
Oh, very queer thing is the wind. I don't know how it's begun, and nobody knows where it goes. It is the wind, it begins and it blows.
That was an awful song. I'm sorry, my dear scholars. He uttered these last words very drowsily, and snapped out a snory kind of grunt. I just is terrible. I did a terrible job with that song. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Macefield's probably rolling in his grave right now. He's going to be poking up his head saying, "What? Matsu, you..." It's awful. He uttered these last words very drowsily and snapped out a snoring kind of grunt once or twice after he had finished. He blinked at Kay once or twice, then closed his eyes and fell fast asleep. "It sounded like someone climbing in the wind," Kay thought, "but he was so drowsy he probably did not hear it." He would have climbed up to make sure, but at that moment the church bells began. Ding dong, ding dong, don don, ding ding, ding dong, ding dong, ding ding don don, and then struck the hour. He was sure that it would only be 4 o'clock. Alas, it was 5. The tea bell must have gone long ago. He would be late again. He would catch it this time, and very likely be sent to bed. And he was still up the tree in Crowmarsh Estate. "Oh, hello there, Kintron. Welcome." 5 in a row? Nah, it has to be more than that. It is odd. I'm not sure how the how Twitch measures the watch streaks on these, or what they count towards the watch streak. Despair made him reckless. He slithered down the tree, ran to the spinney, dashed across to the road, scrambled over the gate, and ran for home, not caring how many keepers caught him. He did not know who saw him. There were people in the road as he passed. He was ruined anyhow. What could one or two more witnesses add to his sentence? He tried to brush the green powder, dust, and ivy clips from his clothes as he ran. He was in a filthy mess. Then his right hand had one of those black resinous smears which you get from laurel or pine boughs. That would not come off, as he knew only too well, except with hot water, Ellen and pumice stone. Oh, I shall catch it this time, he moaned. There was no question of making himself late by washing and brushing. He went straight into the dining room, and there, oh horror, horror of horrors, there was the governess in her icy sweet society manner, sitting at the horrid little society tea table with the best tea service, which everybody calls the low stuff, pouring out tea for Lady Crowmarsh. She saw me after all, he moaned to himself, and now she's come over to sneak.
Kay,
The governess said.
you're very late. Say, how do you do to Lady Crowmarsh? Then come and have your tea.
He said how do you do to Lady Crowmarsh, and was expecting the sword to fall on him for trespass, when the governess noticed the state of his hands and clothes.
Where have you been, Kay? She asked. To get yourself into that pickle. Go and wash your hands and brush your suit before you sit down. Oh, let me plead for him, won't you? Lady Crowmarsh said. I don't like a little boy to come in to tea too tidy. Come and sit by me, Kay, and tell me all about your fossil collection. Have you found any more nice fossils lately?
He had given up collecting fossils for more than a year, under orders from the governess, who found that grubbing in the quarries brought him into meals too muddy. Lady Crowmarsh had once seen him grubbing for fossils, and had remembered it. He thought that it was nice of her to remember, but he still could not understand why she did not begin about the trespassing. Before he could answer, the governess broke in with,
Oh, don't ask about fossils, Lady Crowmarsh. The very thought of those quarries in the rains, and the state of his clothes when he comes in, is enough. And then lumps of stone under all the taps, and the taps left running. Oh, I like men to get through the collection. Yeah, I like men to get through the collection habit in childhood, Lady Crowmarsh said, thinking of her son, who was still a collector of things and something of a disappointment to her. And now about the bazaar. Are you quite sure that you can take the magic peep show?
The words magic peep show made Kay prick up his ears. He looked hard at the governess, who changed color at the words, as though she did not quite like them.
Oh, yes, Lady Crowmarsh, she said. I do so gladly, but might it be called the Wonder Peep Show, as Magic Peep Show might give people such strange ideas? Magic, you know. Well, really, in these days. We've always called it Magic Peep Show in the past, Lady Crowmarsh said. I don't think that anyone has minded, as it is only to amuse the children. Still, call it Wonder Peep Show if you would really rather. I think, perhaps, if you don't mind.
Kay thought her a silly ass to object to the word magic.
Ah, he thought, if you only knew what goes on at midnight in this very room, you would be less particular.
Lady Crowmarsh was very nice to him during the rest of her stay. He could not think why she did not begin about the trespassing. This is like the third time he's said that sentence in this story. His spirits began to rise as he thought, she may not have seen me after all, and Sylvia Daisy hasn't found out yet either. But he knew that his black hands and dusty clothes would be inquired into later, when Lady Crowmarsh was gone. I shall catch it then, he thought, so he ate as much tea as he could, because his chance of supper was slight. When Lady Crowmarsh goes, he thought, as soon as she is outside the door, it will be, Kay, how dare you come to tea in that state? You will scrub your face and hands and go straight to bed. Excuse me. When Lady Crowmarsh rose to go, she said,
This young man shall come with me, if you will spare him, to open the gates for me.
She clapped him on the shoulder and pinched his ear, but in such a kind way that he did not mind. She can't know, he thought. She can't have seen me. As they walked to the gate together, he felt that he could not let her be ignorant of how he had trespassed on her estate. Excuse me. "Lady Cromarsh," he said, "I'm very, very sorry, but I went into your estate today in spite of the notice. I climbed the tree with the owl's nest, and I was hiding there while you were just below with Mr. Cromarsh just before tea."
Oh,
she said.
were you?
"Yes, while you talked to old Blinky."
Well, why do you tell me this?
"At first I thought you knew, and now I feel I ought to tell you," she said in a very tigerish way.
You are quite right to tell me. And what if I take you straight back to the governess and make you tell her?
"Don't look so lost, child. I'm not going to do any such thing."
But tell me, had you climbed the tree after the cat?
"No, Lady Cromarsh. What cat?"
There was a white cat in the ivy there. It is yours, I think. I have seen it go over your wall. A black cat with white paws and throat."
"Yes, that's Black Malkin. I didn't know that he was in the tree, though I did hear something rustle."
You better not. You better tell him not to touch old Blinky,"
Lady Cromarsh said.
"Blinky has been in that tree for years, and was in the ruin before that,
"Until we pulled it down."
Do you often come into my grounds, may I ask?"
"No, I never came before today."
"What made you come today?"
"Please, I wanted to see where 100 yards south of a place would bring me."
"What a curious notion! And where did it bring you?"
"To the middle of your little pond. Could you tell me, please, when those little ponds were made?"
"They were made in 1782, when the formal garden was laid out. I suppose you are not interested in formal gardens?"
"Please, I don't quite know what they are."
"Well, come in and see. Then if you like them, you can come in to see them again whenever you like, as long as you don't disturb the birds. The gardens will bore you, but you may like to see my mice. I have a great many mice, for I'm interested in them."
Kay spent a most happy hour looking at the mice. When he was dismissed to his home, he was given a big bunch of gotta pronounce this right. I know how to pronounce this, but musticalde grapes for the governess.
"Give her these from me, with my compliments,"
Lady Cromarsh said,
"and say that it was all my fault if I've kept you from preparation or bed."
Kay walked home with the grapes, fearing that he would catch it for being there so long. Where am I? Give me 1 minute, my dear scholars. Sorry about that, my dear scholars. Random crack in reality appeared in the reading room. Just had to check it out. Odd visitor. Had a horse named Blinky, of all things. Oh well. Where was I? Kay walked home with the grapes, fearing that he would catch it for being there so long, as well as for the other matters.
"Please,"
he said,
"Lady Cromarsh took me to see her mice, and she sent you these grapes, with her compliments." "That is very kind of Lady Cromarsh,"
the governess said with a greedy gleam in her eyes.
"Please put them on the sideboard. But let me be sure first that you haven't eaten any on the way." It's very kind of Lady Cromarsh to take such notice of a dirty little boy who comes in late for tea, particularly as I hear you were seen climbing a tree in her estate this afternoon."
She said these last words with slow relish, knowing that they would surprise him. They did. How could she have known? Who could have seen and told her? Told. Could it possibly have been Black Malkin? There he was, curled up on the armchair, pretending to be asleep. But Kay could see that he was listening with all his might, and grinning too, although he kept his face down.
"Don't try to keep things from me, Kay," she said, "for you see I get to know. Now don't let me hear of you climbing trees there again, or woe betide you. Now, it's past your bedtime. Go to bed at once. I know all about owls' nests, remember?"
Kay went up to his bedroom, sorely perplexed. It was bad enough to be sneaked on, but supposing the sneak had heard the directions for finding the treasure? Supposing the treasure were still there under that red clay? Supposing the sneak lay in wait for Swift, Bat, or Blinky as he brought the news from oversea? Suppose the sneak tortured the messenger until he told where the treasure was? Perhaps he had done that already. It was time for the message to be there, and it wasn't there. He stood at his open window for a long time, hoping that the message would come. Some swifts were flying about. None of them were his swift. Presently the sun went behind the wood, which at once became very black. It was said that in the camp in the wood, called King Arthur's Round Table, there was a door which led to the table itself. Now the brown owl, which had nested in the hollow bough of the ruined pippin, flew out to look at the twilight.
"Perhaps he will have the message,"
Kay thought. No. The brown owl cried his "tick-ching-ching" cry and flew away. Now that the swifts had gone to their roosts, the red in the west grew clear. In the middle heaven this red merged into a green in which a planet glowed. Soon bats began to flitter here and there across the green sky. He could hear their little shrill cries.
"Perhaps one of those is Bat with the message," he thought.
So he called out,
"Bat, Mr. Bat, I am Kay, please."
It seemed he had made a mistake. None of those was his bat. He had no answer. As it was now chilly near the window, Kay got into bed where he had been waiting for the message, which did not come. He heard the owls in the woods at their hunting.
"That settles it,"
he thought.
"the message has been stopped. Swift told Blinky that he would have an answer before he began his evening's hunting. They have laid in wait for the messenger and caught him."
Then in his drowsiness he began again to wonder,
"How did she find out all about owls' nests, remember? Did Black Malkin sneak, or could she have overheard me telling Lady Cromarsh? If she heard it from Black Malkin, she must be a friend of the witches. But of course she can't be. That's absurd. I must have been watched by someone in the road who sneaked. All the same, it was Black Malkin who has made them catch poor old Blinky."
He worried over this, wondering what he could do, until he fell asleep. He woke up, or half woke up, about an hour later when Abner's voice, he thought it was, rang out in the hall. I gotta get the water ready for Abner. Abner's voice, he thought it was, rang out in the hall, saying, "Well, if you won't speak, you shall very soon be made to speak.
A little torture will soon change your mind. Down with him to the dungeons! He thought that he heard this. He thought that it was followed by a scuffling and dragging noise with calls of, "Down you go! Put him in the kennel! We'll teach you!" He thought that he heard Blinky's voice giving a little hoo of pain. He was so very sleepy that he could not be sure that all this happened. It sounded like voices in a dream in the dark night. He heard some chain jangle, then a door slammed. After that he slept very heavily. Presently there came a noise in the wainscot, a shuffling of feet on the carpet, and someone clearing his throat. Kay sat up to see what this could be. He saw a strangely disreputable rat who was wiping his mouth with the back of a dirty paw. "What is it?" Kay said. "Have you come with a message from Blinky?" Hold on a second, my dear scholars. I am having non-stop visitors tonight. It is weird. Is there like a weakness in the fabric of the study? Horace, do you think anything's going on here? Can you tell Virgil after this to take a look? Because I'm getting a little concerned here. Where was I? Oh, yes. The rat. He saw a strangely disreputable rat who was wiping his mouth with the back of a dirty paw. "What is it?" Kay said. "Have you come with a message from Blinky?" "All right, I am," the rat said. "I'm a cellar man, I am. I never done nothing against no young ducks. Nor did I. No, I didn't neither. Not against no chicks. I live in a cellar, and I does a bit in the dustbin. But him as says I ducks and I chicks, and he says what isn't it, because I never."
"And what do you want now, Mr. Rat?" Kay asked.
"I don't want nothing,"
Rat said. "Oh, thank you for the follow, Pickles Cage 45. Welcome." Pickles Cage, British Rat, fantastic. Actually, it's a funny thing. I'm trying to mimic the voice. So the book actually has a sequel, which is called The Box of Delights, and Rat reappears in the sequel. Box of Delights was made into a made-for-television serial by the BBC in the 1980s, and so I'm trying to mimic the actor who does Rat's voice in that. It's a real fun voice too. I've been waiting to do Rat for a bit now.
"I don't want nothing," Rat said. "Him as thinks as Rat wants anything for doing anything. He ought to have the cat after him, and you ought to have the dog after him."
Yes, Kay said. "I'm sure he should."
"Oh," Rat said, "that's what."
"Is there anything that I can do for you, Mr. Rat?"
Kay asked. "Oh," Rat said, "there's many more have asked that question before now. What, Dick? Because a fellow is a cellar man, does a bit in the dustbin, and comes a bit close to an old bone now and then. Even that he don't often. People thinks, why, I don't know what they don't think. But what I says is, a fellow is a fellow. You have to come back to that in the end. For all your tillits and flirts, and then where are you?"
"Yes, where?" Kay asked, because he didn't know where he was.
"Well, that's what I said, ain't it?"
Rat answered in a surly tone.
I thought I'd settled all that once for all.
Kay could not think of anything more to say. He was silent.
Ah, Rat said. It's a cruel life he's been a cellar man. If I'd had my time again, I don't know what I'd be, but rather than I'd be a cellar man again. I'd have the cat after me, and I'd have the dog after me, and I don't know what I wouldn't have after me.
Is it as bad as that? Kay said.
Oh, that's what.
Rat said. Look here, Mr. Rat, Kay said. Will you have a lump of sugar? It's a bit grubby, but I haven't sucked any of it.
Now there's talking,
Rat said.
an old person's talks, and what good does it do? I ask you what, and it goes on so I eats your very good health, Master Kai, and as good a bit of sugar,
He called it sugar.
as ever I grit my teeth on. That's Mr. Spiceman's sugar, that is. You'll tell me that came from that old cove in the jury. He's a mean one, he is. He traps his basement. Ah! He's sick a terrier dog on me once. He's a regular mean one, I suppose. Mr. Kai, you haven't got such a thing as a seedless rising about you.
Oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. The price you pay for doing voices like this. But oh, I love doing this kind of voice. Yes, I have, Kay said. In my waistcoat pocket. Here you are. I'm afraid they're a bit stuck together,
I don't matter enough for that.
the rat said, taking the raisins.
It's one for a bit of squish brings out the plumminess. It's a real treat to one what lives in a cellar to taste a bit of plumminess. It takes him at once right into the vineyards and that. Like what I saw once when I went marine cellar man. But I don't do not being a but I don't do not being a marine cellar man because they like stuff what smokes, and the smoke it does creepy and creepy. You don't want to breathe none of it neither, for it lies you dead. Ah, many and many a fine marine cellar man has a cut short before he's gnawed through the flour barrel.
What a shame, Kay said.
Ah,
The rat said.
that's what.
There was a pause after this while the rat smeared his mouth with the back of his paw.
I suppose,
He said at last.
you don't carry no bit of bacon rind upon you.
No, Kay said. I'm afraid I don't,
Ah,
the rat said.
a bit of bacon rind. What has been hung in the sun so as to take the crisp off. It's what I don't rightly know what it's, but it's pretty picking of a morning, and of an evening.
I could get you some tomorrow, perhaps, Kay said.
That's a fine day tomorrow,
The rat said.
I never did hold with no tomorrow. But as for tomorrow, perhaps, that's when it's gonna rise soup, and the grass is gonna grow spoons.
Here's a bit more sugar, Kay said. It's a bit lead pencilly, I'm afraid, from being in my pocket,
I'll trust the lad,
the rat said, taking the sugar.
and I'll thank you kindly. But what I come here to see you about was nothing to do with no sugar. What you're so fond of, not about no raisins, what's plummy or not plummy, not about no bacon rind, what you've got mountains of, and grudges a little bit. Yes, even so much as smell of. No, it wasn't about any of these things, as well I would have let you know. But for all my words being so snapped off short in a way as to make my blood boil, no, it was about my friend as I come to see you about. A friend as one needing the name of. There's been dark doings, that's what's what. And if you was to follow me instead of talking quite such a lot, it'd be thatter and water.
He turned to go, still smearing his mouth with the back of his paw. Kay followed him out of the bedroom, into the deserted corridor, and then down the stairs to the hall. Kay did not know what time it was. He thought it could not be very late because the governess was still at her music in the library. The rat opened the hall cupboard door.
"It's in here, master,"
he said in a low voice. When they were both inside the cupboard, the rat closed the door upon them. He produced a piece of phosphorescent wood which gave a faint light.
"It's in here, master,"
he said again. The panel at the back of the cupboard came out. Behind it there was a gap in the wainscoting from which one could step onto the cellar stairs.
"They got him down here,"
the rat said.
"Quinox got caught, padlocked up in that old dog kennel."
"Oh, Blinky," Kay asked. "Is it old Blinky?"
"Ah," said the rat, "that's what."
He led the way down the cellar steps into the darkness of the cellar. Bit of a redundant sentence there. The cellar steps down is the cellar. I'm not trying to critique his writing, but it just sounds a little bit odd. Which was only lit by a ray of moonlight from a grating, and by a sort of dimness about two other gratings higher up. Kay could see the faint bulges of a line of barrels against the wall, and smelled the stale beer in the saucer underneath the spigot of the cask in use. It was a creepy place even in daylight.
"There's dark deeds going on down here,"
the rat said.
"Those cats come down here and they make a night of it, as they call it. And old Cellarman can't get a wink a night sometimes. Though they leave pickings too. This is where they put your friend."
You see? He led the way past the wine cellar to a corner where, as Kay knew, an old dog kennel had been stored.
"There's a place to put a fellow,"
the rat said.
"It gives one the thought of mange, even to say. They've clapped a padlock on him too, trying to make him tell what he's got to tell."
Kay heard the moaning of poor old Blinky inside the kennel. "I say, Blinky," he said, "I'm most awfully sorry. Is there anything I can do?"
Never you mind about me, Kay," Blinky said. "But you'd better know the truth about the treasure. I got the message, and then the Pouncer and Abner and another of them came down upon me. It was Black Malkin who betrayed us."
"I thought it was," Kay said.
"They're trying to get me to say what I know," Blinky went on, "but they never will. Now you bring your ear close to this hole in the kennel, and I'll tell you just the story that was brought to me."
Kay did as he was bid, and old Blinky began his tale. Another drink of water, because this is going to be probably a long talk. Where am I? Oh, yeah.
"You were quite right about it being buried by an earthquake," he said. "The red mud bank was toppled right over it, and the river changed its course. It was under the ground for years, and then somebody found it."
"Was it Sir Piney Trigger who found it?" Kay asked.
"No, it was a farmer called Old Man John who found it. Old Man John found it while he was digging his cellar in the house he built right over where it lay. He didn't call it treasure, though. He called it Sin and Heathen Idols, and left it all propped up against the cellar wall. It stood there for years. Then some people, 2 men and a little boy, all with the same name."
"Abner Brown,"
Kay said. "That was the name. They came to the district to look for it. They dug for it for years without coming anywhere very near."
"Yes," Kay said, quoting the old lady. "Yon Abner was there, digging for the brass and finding naught."
Then after a good many years there came that man whose name you just mentioned. Please don't mention it again, for it is one of those gummy names which I can't abide. Well, that gunny man, he found out where the treasure was, and oh my goodness."
"I say, how you made me jump," Kay said. "Whatever was the matter?"
Kai, Blinky asked, what was that footstep over there? Over there?
It was Rat moving away, wasn't it? Is that you, Rat?
There was no answer.
What sort of a footstep was it, Blinky?
A sort of stealthy footstep, Blinky said. I shouldn't be surprised if that Black Malkin has crept up in the dark and heard all that I was saying. Oh, if I could only get out and make sure. At this, he beat against the sides and roof of the kennel. Kay, who was peering into the darkness, heard someone hurry up the steps. Stop, you beast! He cried. Or no, that was Kay saying that.
Stop, you beast!
He cried. But the thing, whatever it was, had now gone. Kai, Blinky said, we've been overheard. They'll kill me now that they know my story. Can you move the roof of this kennel? It seems to give way. It seemed to give when I bumped against it. Kay thrust at the roof.
Why, it lifts off, he said. I believe I could shove it sideways. Mind while I shove?
He gave a great heaving shove. The roof slid off and crashed upon the floor. Thank you, Kai, old Blinky said. I can leave the cellar through the grating, which the cats use. As he spoke, he floated down the cellar on his wings and drifted through the grating into the night.
And he hasn't told me half the story now,
Kay said.
He stopped just where it was beginning to be thrilling. Well, he's safe. That's one good thing. I'd better get back to bed.
He groped his way to the stairs, wishing that Nibbins might come to guide him. He stumbled over a cask stave, which surely had not been there when he came in with Rat. Then he bumped into an empty barrel and sent it slowly rolling into the middle of the cellar.
I'm making a fearful row, he thought, and she hasn't gone to bed. She'll hear me.
However, he reached the stairs, climbed up them, and paused inside the hall cupboard. All was silent in the hall. Someone had left the kitchen door open so that he could hear the cricket chirping in the cricket chirping to the silent house.
She's gone to bed, he thought. I do believe she's gone to bed.
He very cautiously peered out. All the lights were out. That was a sure sign that she had gone to bed. The moonlight was streaming into the hall through the windows. None of the midnight people was there. All was still. He crept out of the cupboard and up the stairs to his room. He noticed that a light was burning in his room, but this did not surprise him, because for these last few nights a marvelous light had always burned there. He looked out carefully for Black Malkin or a witch. Neither seemed to be about. At last, he plucked up his courage, made a dash for his room, and rushed straight into the governess, who was standing there waiting for him just within.
You've been in the cellar, you naughty little boy, she said. You know as well as I do that that's forbidden. Haven't I told you I don't know how many times that I won't have you in the cellar? And look at your pajamas, sir, all cobwebbed and whitewashed. Now you'll have to put on a clean suit. What were you doing in the cellar, sir, to begin with?
Kay did not quite know what to begin with. He was upset by being caught thus. Luckily, she did not give him any time. She went on.
What did you do to the owl? Don't you dare to say you let him go. I did let him go. You what? I let him go. You let him go? Yes, he was down there in a dirty old dog kennel that Joe's going to burn, and he was frightfully unhappy, so I let him go. And how did you know he was there in the first place? You could only have learned that he was there by listening and prying. You've been at the keyhole, sir. Don't tell me instead of going to bed. I haven't been at the keyholes. Yes, You have been at the keyhole, sir. Don't contradict me. You listened and you pried, and then you crept down to thwart us. I suppose you know what owl it was?
Yes, it was Lady Cromarsh's. I was talking to her about it after tea.
Yes, Yes, it was Lady Cromarsh's. And I suppose you know that Lady Cromarsh would have given hundreds of pounds for that owl. We took it this evening out of the claws of the cat and put it in the cellar because I knew it would prefer the dark, intending to take it over to Lady Cromarsh after breakfast. Now that you have let it go, it will fly away and never come back. Now that it has been frightened here, I shall tell Lady Cromarsh whose fault it is that her pet is lost. Nicely you've repaid all her kindness to you, letting her pet go. It was a wild owl. It wasn't a pet. Yes, it was a pet. It was blah 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 blah.
Excuse me.
It was a pet owl that she had had for years.
It was a wild owl, Kay said.
If you go contradicting me, the governess said, I shall write a letter to the schoolmaster and ask him to bring his cane. Now here are your clean pajamas. Take off those you're wearing and get into bed. But don't think for one moment you've heard the last of this from me, because you haven't. You and I tomorrow will go through our accounts together, and if I find you've caught your death going down to that cold cellar, woe betide you.
The light had long since dwindled into the light of the governess's candle. She now flounced out of the room with it, leaving Kay to change his pajamas and get into bed in the dark. How on earth did she know that I was in the cellar? He wondered. If she heard me, why didn't she come down to stop me? Those steps that we heard must have been Black Malkin on the sneak again. He ran up and sneaked. That was it. But if she's in with Black Malkin, she's in with witches too. That's certain. Listen. Down in the hall, Black Malkin was wailing under a spanking. A spanking? She's spanking a cat? Hark, Kay said again. I believe she's spanking the little sneak. That's her voice anyhow. The governess paused for a breath in her spanking.
Another time, she said, when I send you down to listen.
Kay had now opened the door so as to hear.
When I send you to listen, you'll wait till the end of the story and not come away with the best of it not told. You shall have no milk for a week.
After Black Malkin had gone away whispering and growling, saying, I'll be even with you before long. You'll see if I'm not. Kay tried to sleep. But he could not. Because he felt sure that somebody was weeping just outside in the garden. It was not Black Malkin. It was someone saying, Oh, woe, woe, I can't make anyone hear. I think maybe we should stop at this point. Because the next part is going to be fairly long with its dialogue. And it's not going to have a very good stopping over point. Yeah, the next part's very long. So we'll stop there. Oh, thank you, thank you. Rat was fun. And we'll stop here for now. I hope you're all enjoying this book. The book, so far, I can tell, Box of Delights, really Macefield really perfected a lot of the little issues he has in this book. There are little bits of the writing that kind of bother me a little bit, as you probably heard with me talking about. Some of his sentences are a little bit strange. Private Maverick. It's been an adventure. It has been an adventure. It really has. Um, what's interesting, since I'm not going to be able to read Box of Delights, because unfortunately Box of Delights is not in the public domain. It was written in the 1930s. It'll be a good while before that book's in the public domain. Um, this book, in Box of Lights, there's actually several little callbacks to events in this book. Um, King Arthur's camp comes up again in in Box of Lights. In fact, it plays a major role at one point in the book. Rat comes back, and the mention of the bacon rinds, if I recall, also comes back to Rat. Rat mentions it again in his next appearance in Box of Delights. Rat is just as conniving in that book as he is in this book. Um, I'm not going to spoil anything more with Box of Lights from on some of the other characters because we don't want to spoil some of the twists in this book. I have read this book before, and yeah, it does link up with the second one. Here's a little fun fact. This book was made into an opera. Believe it or not. There is an opera version of The Midnight Folk. It was. Yes. It combines The Midnight Folk with Box of Delights. I'm not sure why. I haven't ever been able to find any sort of recording or video of it, so I haven't yet seen it. But apparently, it was produced with that in mind. So, my dear scholars, I do have to ask, what do you think of the book so far? I would love to hear you saying what. I would love to hear your views on it. I can't. I'd love to hear what you're saying. I can't talk. Oh, I'm really worn out. Anyone have any feedback? What they think of the book so far? Unit 20. It started slow but got better as it went on. That is true. It some of the early ones seem a little bit oddly placed. The whole bit with the fox and I think was it a badger? Can't remember what it was. Going out into the forest for their hunt. That seems a little bit like it's right. But then again, John Mayfield, and you see this in Box of Lights too, he has this tendency to go off on little magical tangents where, he'll put Kay in a situation where Kay will experience some sort of magical occurrence which won't directly have anything to do with the story, will tangentially have something to do, but is really just there to, make it seem more and more magical and fantastic. And I honestly wish I had hand sensors right now because I'm waving my little fingers here. Um, in Box of Lights, it comes in the form of Hearn the Hunter, a character who's in the book who takes Kay on several magical adventures in it. And they really don't add anything to the story, but they're there just to make it seem even more magical, let's put it that way, if that makes sense. Um, although, I will say, Kinchon, I'm not sure you would like Box of Delights. There is a whole chapter where a lot of wolves get killed. So you might want to avoid that book. Union 20 Love Hearn. Oh, you've seen the show. I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah, Hearn is great. Oh, an out of context reading. We got an out of context reading. Let's see. What do I got here? Um, Give me 1 second. Oh, Okay, ready. Ha ha ha, thanks! I plunged my fork into a slice and took a bite. The cake was super light and the frosting's sweetness was perfect. There is your out of context reading, Dragon Thunder. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh my goodness, I need to rework my shelves, or at least make them easier to access. Dragon Thunder, I need more context. You are not getting any more context. They're out of context readings. Yielding to my wolves are very important. They are very important to Box of Delights. The wolves are running as the book goes. Dragon Thunder Fiddlesticks. And of course, I can't mention the title because I don't want to get any issue with copyright. So I think it's almost time. I think it's time for us to go. So I know that Sophia will be doing her Oz stream, so maybe we should drop in on that. If it's going on, if she's ready. Let's see. Not just yet. Okay then. She's not there yet. Okay, so I think for now we'll wait on. Fortunately, I'm running out of things to say. Um, so we might have to close out without a raid, unless I can somehow stretch this out a few more minutes. Um, no, I don't know what to say. Oh, next week! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I forgot to talk about next week. Oh, Dragon Thunder improvise a story. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let me think. Let me think of a good story then. All right. The raven's wings beat upon the wind. It had been hunting a long time, and yet not seen its prey. It was weary. It was tired. It had long since given up any hope of reaching that which had been searching. Oh, never mind. Continue with Dragon Thunder. Dragon Thunder, you need an out of context reading for that one, not for an improvised story. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. We can move on. So now I've lost the story. I've lost the story. That. I've lost my story. Oh, Yulian 20 wanted to know about next week. No, it's okay, Dragon Thunder. Um, next week. So next week, if everything goes according to plan, we're gonna do more Metal Gear. Hopefully, I can get farther in this game now. I am not sure. The game is admittedly wearing me down a little bit. And then we will be continuing with more of the Midnight Folk. We are about in the book. We're a little more than halfway done. This is a very long book. Um, I'm not even sure how many pages we have left. Oh boy, we have a lot. So we're probably gonna have several more streams left to do of this. So finish that. We'll work on that. I am considering of lengthening some of my streams so we could get more story in, because I had forgotten how long this book is. But for now, my dear scholars, I say unto you, I think we'll have to just go without a raid tonight. More streams, more streams. I've got more streams planned. I have some ideas for some unique streams coming up, and I would like to do another public domain movie stream. I haven't done that in a long time, but I need to find the right movie to do. There had been a movie I wanted to do originally for Public Domain Day, but I had what happened? I think I got sick on Public Domain Day, so I couldn't do the movie. I might do that one, though I have to review the film and make sure that there's nothing wrong with it. Um, so that's going to be in the future. I am working towards. I would like to do a hand stream at some point. I need to get the equipment for it. Working towards it. Um, I have an idea of what I want to do for it. I am also trying to. I am also looking for more collabs in the future. I'm open to doing collabs with most anyone as long as they, it's as long as there's an idea there. Um, but I have a lot of plans, my dear scholars. I have a lot of plans to work out of. And there's Sophia Striders too, so now we can raid her. It's only fair that I raid Sophia tonight. So, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.